Hey there and welcome back. So we created the extra script for transpiling our code into JavaScript. So now we have this build command that will run, clean up the dist folder and run the TypeScript compiler, TSC. So let's fix this issue we had with the .env file. We could see that if we enable this line here of code, that will run the .env flow. If we run npm run start dev, we can see we get this error. There is no .env file matching this pattern, so it's undefined. And we're running 4000. It could be very nice to have a configuration file that we can specify the port, among others, and also the database host, so that we don't need to put the connection string to the database or any passwords or other confidential info directly inside the code. We can put it into a .env file that we can git ignore. We can add this to our git ignore as it is already, and it will not be committed and pushed to GitHub. So how do we do this? Pretty easy. First off, we need to enable this line here, of course. Then we need to create our .env file. So let's right click, new file, .env, and let's just put our port 4000. And we can have extra information here. We can have database hosting for connecting to our database and other information that we want to keep away from GitHub. So let's go back here, because now we have this .env. We can see that if we run it again, we don't get the error, but we can also see that if we modify this to 4001, it probably will not reflect, so it's still running on 4000, so it's not reading, or it is reading, but we're not using the information. So what we need to do is we need to remove this hard-coded information here from our code. And one way to do this could be we can create a constant here called port. This is a number because we're using TypeScript. We have a type for this. And because the .env will load this, if we try to write process env, and then we can use port, then we can see this should be 4000. If we don't have any information, we can say if we don't have any port information in the .env file, we can write, or we can provide a fallback info, default information, so it's going to use 4000 anyway if there is no information in the env file. But we can see here now that we're using TypeScript. We get an error because this constant port is of the type number, but the env data into our file will be loaded as strings. So we have a type mismatch here between number and string. So what we need to do is we need to parse this. So we're using a command called parse int. And then we need to specify that this port is actually a string we get. So that we are getting this .env port as a string, and we're passing it as an integer, or trying to pass it as an integer into this constant. And if this fails, if we don't have information or something goes wrong, it will use 4000. So we can put our port info here, port info here. So this line of code will do the trick, and we can see that nodemon is updating 4001 because now it has seen that we provided 4001. If we modify this, run the command, we can see it is reading from the information here in .env. So if we write a string, just to see what happens if we give it something that is not valid. This is not possible to parse as an integer, so this will not work in our code. So then it will fall back to the 4,000. If we give it information that is not parsable information, which is a number. Okay, so now we have modularized our code just a little bit more. We have removed this hard-coded information about the port. Next up, we will try to see if we can connect to the database and extend this so we also have the connection string in the env file. Okay, so that's it for this video. Hope you make this work. Bye-bye.